Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our third episode of Ascent Talks. My name is Ajit Panikar, and I'm an Ascent member for the past 10 years, and I lead Nova, an air conditioning company, and Pure Blue, a tech-enabled startup in the air conditioning domain. And my co-host is Aleem. Hi, Aleem. How are you doing?
Good morning, Ajit. Good morning, Ascenters. My name is Aleem. I run a company called Synapse. We're an advertising and marketing company. I've been an Ascent member for a while. And we welcome you to the show where we give you no giveaways, but hopefully a lot of takeaways. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, to all our viewers, if you are actually wondering what Ascent is all about, Ascent is a not for profit expression of Harsh Mariwala, Chairman Marico Limited, and his passion to identify high growth potential, growth stage entrepreneurs and enable them to grow their enterprise and enrich their entrepreneurial journey. Launched in 2012, Ascent today empowers more than 700 entrepreneurs across India. Ascent is designed as a unique, powerful peer to peer platform that leverages the power of the collective through self facilitated groups called trust groups, which enables entrepreneurs to share and exchange experiences, ideas, insights, and create a healthy ecosystem to learn from each other. So today's event, a weekly event, Ascent Talks, showcases Ascent members and their interesting entrepreneurial journeys. So Ali, let's welcome our guest today.
So, yes, as you all know, our show is called Ascent Talks with Ajit and Aleem, but today it's also called Ascent Talks with Ajit, Aleem, and Akhil. So, welcoming Akhil, Dr. Akhil Shahani is the managing director of the Shahani Group, which runs a franchise range of colleges in areas like business, media, real estate, finance, and others. His colleges incorporate global industry oriented education systems that make their graduates truly employable. Additionally, he runs the EdTech platform Ask Careers and a recruitment firm, Ask Talent Services. In addition, Akhil serves as the chairman of Global Discovery Schools, which are a franchise chain of 14 innovative schools. He used to be a venture partner in Cares Invest, which is India's first private equity fund focused solely on the education sector. That's a lot, Akhil. That's really a lot. So tell us about your business, the nature of the business, scale, some clients, solutions to understand this better, and how do you manage all of this?
Well, the reason why
That's true.
I wear many hats is because my wife seems to think that I've got a very big head. So therefore, I've got all these multiple entities. But I think the overall the scale really is under the education space on online and offline. And in fact, recently we have absorbed an incubator for social entrepreneurs called Unlimited into our group, and that process is already happening. So education and entrepreneurship is our large scale. Now, obviously, each of these entities has a different client base and unique skilling. But on the broad terms would be the college group, Thadaman Shani Center for Management, has 5 locations. We're focusing on helping kids get diplomas and degrees for industry jobs. That's like standard. Ask Careers is an online platform which has a range of apps which some allows us to scale up in India and of course other parts of Asia to again teach the same courses online. Ask Talent Services is our executive recruitment firm that helps to place entry level recruits into companies. And of course, those are the clients for those are recruiters themselves. On the other side, the non-profit, we have a non-profit entity called Sage Foundation, where we're helping a lot of blue collar rural kids get jobs in the white collar world. The clients for those would be grant funders, large scale funders who want to support poor kids to get jobs. And of course, Unlimited is the incubator for social entrepreneurs, where we help early stage social entrepreneurs sort of scale up their business and grow with mentoring and funding. But yeah, that's the quick 2 minute answer.
Amazing, yeah. But tell me something, Akhil.
Yeah.
How big is this industry, yeah? And what are the growth opportunities that the whole education industry is actually bringing about today? I mean, from your
Well, I think
perspective, just for somebody who is not from the industry like us, how big is this, and what are the growth opportunities around here?
Well, I think the great thing about the education industry, and of course, I'm very bullish for like I think for reasons which a lot of people know, is that the fact that India has got 500 million people under the age of 30 who actually, which actually will apply for education. But what's more interesting is that all of us as entrepreneurs, working executives, believe that we have to keep on upskilling ourselves. The fact that you're, let's say, 40 years old and work in a certain industry doesn't mean that you're going to be there forever. You'll have to start looking at online programs, offline executive programs to keep on growing up. So the concept of education has now become lifelong, which means that the demand has now grown from 500 million people to a billion people, and forget about the rest of the world. The second thing I think is important is that when you look at India, India is now becoming a regional power for a lot of other countries. So for a lot of countries in South Asia, in Africa, in Middle East, are looking at India as a place to send their students to actually learn a best quality education. Because don't forget is that when you're looking at education in the US and UK, that become horribly expensive, right? So therefore, and India now become an attractive economy with the moderate cost education. More importantly, also has an economy that you can build your career in. I think there is a huge value there. The third thing I think which is important, and we all know this, is that because of COVID, there's been a forced acceptance of online education. So people thought that education would be just classrooms, a teacher talking to a bunch of students in a class, boring, 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 versus where a lot of new models came out in the last 2 years. Of course, overfunded ed tech companies, but in some more models like in the skilling space, in executive education, in other forms. So people are saying, look, now education has to be hybrid. It can't be just pure offline, can't be pure online. But technology now allows us to scale up, especially in cases which are less accessible. Like if you're a small school in a village, you can now access the best teachers, which you could not get before. So I'm very, very bullish in this industry. So, and also the
And in
lot we
fact,
want to.
yeah, and in fact, through your entrepreneurial journey, like how you said, that you're already speaking about hybrid, it's a change. Now, through your journey of building this business, as an entrepreneur, you brought in some significant changes. I mean, for our viewers, you should actually highlight, I know it's not trumpeting, but it's sharing of experiences. But what are the big things the significant changes that you were able to bring about into your organization?
You mean into my organization itself or my journey?
While you were building it? No. As an entrepreneurial journey, you built a fabulous business in this
Okay.
education space.
Fair
And
enough.
what are the big changes? When you look back and you say
All right.
that, I'm so glad I took that call. I made that change. I did that. And that's what been a turning game for me. It was risky at that time and I wanted to think about it,
Okay.
but I just took
All
the
right.
plunge. I just did it and look at the impact that it has made.
Perfect. Okay, so it's kind of that classic Steve Jobs phrase. No? The thing is that life needs to be lived forward but understood backwards, right? So I've had, and as an education, I like to call failures learnings. So I've had a lot of learnings, which is failures. And of course, to take your point, Ajit, it's not, I'm so glad I did that, more like I'm so glad that happened to me. So it's kind of an interesting perspective. So let's give an example of where my journey is and why I am doing what I'm doing today, right? So, of course, I started the Shahani Group around 10, 11 years ago, but I'm 54 years old now. So I've done stuff before that. But the idea is that, so I did my MBA at Kellogg, one of the top business schools in the world. And I worked in the software industry in the US. I came back to India and I started a software company. I thought, hey, I'm a hotshot software guy. I'll build a great business. I'm talking about the late 90s, early 2000 dot-com boom. And I started this business selling software. Now, everything that could go wrong went wrong. I applied all my MBA gyan in it. I had my partner developing cancer left me. We created a product that nobody wanted because we thought, hey, we are brilliant. We create knowledge management systems. Nobody wanted knowledge management systems in those days. What we now call collaboration systems and intranet was stuff in those days. And of course, because I trusted people blindly, my CEO was embezzling money from me. So which was fun. So like I said, everything went wrong, and within 5 years, I had to close down the business and made a minor loss. I said, good. Now I know that how come the best education in the world, the best business education in the world, did not help me to run a business. I said, okay, that's one learning, put aside. The second learning was that when I started a speakers bureau, where we got a lot of international speakers into India, we got John Gray, the Men from Mars, Women from Venus, Tony Robbins, all these big guys coming in to give these talks, motivational talks to people. What we discovered was that a lot of people in the audience were highly educated themselves. They were MBAs, CEOs of companies, PhDs. And these guys were like crying away in the audience, saying, I wish I'd spoken to my dad earlier. And in the middle of you had these little breaks where people will run to the phone, and those are before cell phones, and say, I'm so sorry. I wish we could make things better again. So I realized that, in the speaker bureau, why is this stuff not taught in schools and colleges, right? Why the heck do these people learn all this yarn and education, but nobody teaches them how to live their life? So second learning, right? And the third learning I realize is that when you look at the concept, and I've done my PhD in employability, right, from University of Liverpool, and I realized is that in something in my research discovered to say that in spite of the best efforts of colleges globally, not just in India, but even US, UK, other developed countries, 73% of employers are not happy with the quality of graduates coming out, right? Because, and we discovered a little deeper, is that the problem is that basically most people don't have a standard framework for employability. So when you say, I want an employable graduate, one person will say, I want a guy with soft skills. Someone will say, I want someone who can get the job done. Someone will say, I want an ambitious person. No standard. So therefore, in absence of a standard, you're not able to tell colleges, how can you create an education system that is scalable, that you can train thousands of people to get a job? So then I said, look at these three learnings, right? One is that, okay, why does education not help you to do well in business? Second is that, why does education not teach you how to run your life? Third is that, why do people not even know what they want in employability? So then we said, the underlying framework of the Shahani Group, my online, offline models, is to say, can we create an employability framework where we're able to train people on the parameters of employability, which basically says that basically want someone who can communicate well, who can collaborate with others, can solve problems, has a proactive attitude, and has professional work ethic. That's it. Nobody wants a creative maverick at the entry level. They want people with these capabilities. And because we have only half an hour, I'm not going to get into how we do it. But the point is that owning the colleges online and offline, having an assessment framework, having the placement firm, allows us to control the whole value chain to get kids to be employable and get jobs. So in fact, what really gets it interesting is that with Sage Foundation, the non-profit, I'm able to get a kid from a blue collar background using the same system and get jobs in banks, white collar work at a high salary. And what is interesting also is that for the recruiter, they can't make out the difference between the kid from the blue collar background and the kid from the middle class background, because all of them are developed on the same parameters and they all have equal chances to get the same job, right? So that really is, but if I didn't have these learnings before, that, okay, yeah, that business education doesn't teach you stuff, or why can't you develop on your life, I wouldn't have been able to create this. So again, no failure, everything's learning.
Amazing. But you know what, Aleem? So there's something what Akhil said. He said that, my CEO has been embezzling money and it was fun. I said, yeah.
Well,
you gotta keep your cool around it. It's fun. How did that become fun?
Akhil, I'm very employable. I want to be your CEO.
No problem. Actually, I'm now looking for investors. I take your money first and then your money.
पहले collect करता हूँ, फिर बाद में बांटता हूँ.
So Akhil, we've got Ankit back again. He says it was a pleasure to meet you. The Ascent Conclave. So you should come back, Ankit, for next conclave. You'll see there. But he's also revealing certain things about you. He says your Tinder profile looks much better at 54. And Ankit, here's my question.
I have Photoshop. I use
Photoshop. Hang on. No, Akhil, the question that we need to ask Ankit is, what the hell are you looking at the guys' profiles for? Yeah? What's happening?
But okay, this is a more open-ended environment. So I never judge. If you want to look at women, guys,
go ahead, do it.
Non-binary people, it is your choice.
Go for it.
What do you? Yeah. Go.
Go for it. Over to you, Ali.
Just define your pronouns in LinkedIn. For some reason, that's a new woke thing to do.
True.
But on a more philosophical side, or a more serious side, I think some of the work that you do for the not for profit work, and that's very very interesting. We'd like to know a little more, because a lot of people I discuss with in Ascent also, they keep talking about what they want to do, purpose of life, and stuff like that. So what is it that you do with your not for profit work? Because I know that's very interesting.
And let me clarify, not-for-profit doesn't mean edtech companies which are losing money left, right, and center. Not-for-profit means where profit is not the key focus, right? So let me define the non-profit world, right? So the thing is, non-profit doesn't necessarily mean that you're only starting an NGO, helping villagers and getting grant money all the time. Right? The concept of non-profit has now moved into what's called impact, right? Impact says that, okay, look, I want to start an organization which actually helps society but earns money. Classic case would be, let's say, an entrepreneur which I supported, which started these solar lamps, which he sells to villagers. So these are like standalone solar lamps. They just get funded by the sun, and then they use them in the night. He charges X amount of money for them, but he's earning money. He's not depending on grant money. But the villagers benefit, right? If you look at even very large organizations like Cabin Care, if you remember, Cabin Care started these 1 rupee shampoo sachets and made a lot of money. Again, the social impact was that poorer people could afford a 1 rupee shampoo sachet to clean their hair, which they couldn't afford earlier. So the thing is that I'm seeing a lot of younger people today, not just in our colleges, but even with the incubator that we've got, is that a lot of people from the corporate world or for-profit world say, I actually want to start a business or get involved in an organization that gives me meaning. Because what's happening nowadays, a lot of people want to have meaning in their lives. Money is there. Let's assume that that's there. The question is that do you feel good about what you do every day? Because frankly, business is tough here. What is it that gets you up in the morning and says, look, I believe that I can suffer through this because there's an end goal, which is not just about enriching myself, but I'm helping these people or these people. So, and frankly, I would actually look at Shahani Group as a social enterprise because my focus is to help people, help kids get the best careers, either as corporate employees or as entrepreneurs. But that's what gets me going. So I think the question is that if you look at your own business as a social enterprise and you look what is the benefit that you give to society, that I think opens you up to a lot more possibilities. And a lot of funders today, VC funds and all, are now saying that we want to not just invest in entrepreneurs, but also entrepreneurs who are doing social good. Suddenly that I think that sensibility has come up, which I think is very, very refreshing.
That's very, very fresh. But I like these rich people problems. Like मेरे को तो ये लेने वाला, पैसा कमाने. But yeah, Ajit, go for it.
Yeah. So Akhil, one of the things that everyone's talking about is this new education policy that the government of India is pushing, and it's been debated quite a bit in the general public. But there's a lot of information that is very sketchy in clarity. I want you to throw more light today on the education policy, how it's going to impact India on a long-term perspective, and from an entrepreneur's perspective, the challenge that you find today is getting skilled people, right? And how does that get addressed? Will that really get addressed over a period of over the next decade or so? Throw some light around that.
Fair enough. So one thing you need to remember is that the national education policy, like Startup India, like Make in India, like a lot of other policies, sound great, pay by people, great announcements, and the government is really making their best efforts to sort of, let's say, really make a change in this country. Full marks for them. However, a lot of cases, like the national education policy, the implementation happens at the state, local, city level, and education is what's called a concurrent subject in the constitution. That means that the central government can define a policy, but the state can choose to interpret it the way they want and how it actually applies to the laws in their when they manage schools or colleges or things like that. So that's one thing. Secondly, the problem also, don't forget, is that unfortunately education has a huge amount of inertia. So in fact, there's a book which I suggest everyone in the education industry to read. It's called Failure to Disrupt by a guy called Justin Reich. He said that basically, in spite of the prevalence of technology in education for the last 50, 60 years, why has the education industry not changed much? Why do we still focus on exams or assignments? He said that, Thomas Edison in 1920 said that movies will replace textbooks within 10 years' time. Obviously, that's not happened, right? Because, and I'll give you an illustration as to how that problem was. So the CBSE board had come up with a new model of, this is around 2014, called continuous comprehensive evaluation, right? What they said is that instead of having year-end exams, we will come up with smaller tests throughout the year, and we will also assess things like leadership development, sports, projects, assignments, all very good. Now that was great, but the problem is that it actually died within 3 years because the students said, boss, I'm happy enjoying the year. The last 2 weeks, I'm month with exams and that's it. Why are you bugging me throughout the year? The teacher is saying, look, we already have to go through the curriculum. On top of that, you want us to do assignments, you want us to do all this other stuff. So continuous comprehensive evaluation started to become a classic environment where vendors started coming and say, fine, we will provide the sports education, do the tick marks. A lot of schools were doing the tick marks and it didn't really roll out. And CBSE closed that and went back to the exam system. So when you're talking about a lot of the initiatives of the national education policy, like, okay, we will allow the top 100 universities to come down to India and set up, only in GIFT City, by the way, not other parts. You have to ask yourself, the problem is the top 100 universities also not present in a lot of other countries. Because, for example, what makes a university, a top 100 university especially, tends to be their research output and the fact that they can reject the largest number of students. Harvard never has an offshore campus. They have a executive education campus, but they won't run their MBA ever in India. The universities that step out are the ones who desperately need to get students, who are the mid-tier universities, which is why you see the mid-tier universities in Malaysia, Abu Dhabi, and things like that. So executive education, yes, they'll do, but the core degree they won't do because their reputation is based on the core degree. So the point is that a lot of the education policy is brilliant, but unfortunately, when it hits reality, in terms of incentives of people, in terms of the dynamics of the business, it won't be that easy to do. That said, I think two things which will be useful. One is that allowing Indian degrees to start getting equivalents of foreign degrees. So, for example, if you did a 1-year MBA in Oxford School said and came back to India, that would not be recognized in India because India recognizes 2-year MBAs, not 1-year MBAs. So stuff like that is being rationalized. So in a way, India is rationalizing the education system, but I would not hold my breath waiting for major changes to happen on the ground. I mean, a classic case, right? So COVID, right? We were forced to do online education. We thought, wow, education will change forever. COVID got over, everyone's back to schools, back to college. No, nobody's doing, nobody's supporting the edtech companies anymore and having layoffs going on. So yeah, that's an issue.
That's amazing. At least you got clarity on that front because there was so much of talk going around it and everyone was just speculating. That's right.
Remember, failure equals learnings. So all this learning is about failure. And these gray hairs take a tough time to get here. So yeah, that's experience.
And talking about failures leading to learnings, Akhil, we'd love to know about your Ascent journey. What's it been like? We know that you're one of the early members.
Did we lose Aleem out there? Yeah, we did.
And also, we're heading to we're counting days backwards now for the conclave. So please let us know who you're looking forward to it.
Okay, good. So let me talk a bit about, and one thing I think what most entrepreneurs have to look at, and again, I would say that my most special resource is time. I think that you guys all agree with that, right? The question is that does Ascent provide the best quality learning in the most effective use of my time? Because as you know, we've all been part of industry association where people just faff around and just give gyan, but nobody actually gives real life learnings, right? So when I look at, let's say, Ascent Conclave, which I have taken part in the last 2-3 times when it was offline, I would say one thing which in my mind is one of the best compliments is that it is not a waste of time. It's a great use of my time. That's it. And that is very rare to say for any other most conferences I've been to. Give an example why. So one of the previous conclaves, we had Uday Kotak talking about his journey. Now, normally the average keynote address in a conference that people just give high-minded sounding gyan and say, this should do, that should. Uday Kotak spoke a lot, very honestly about his journey, his failings, how he dealt with his family, how he dealt with the early years. And that, in my mind, was the environment where he felt free to share, right? Another one, so for now, another of the earlier one, which is actually interesting in retrospect, is that we had Falguni Nair of Nykaa and this guy, the Future Group guy, Kishore Biani, both having a debate saying that, okay, is online retail versus offline retail, will that work or not? And of course, in retrospect, now where they are is, illustrative. But the point is that the debate was very, very instructive, not just in what they were saying, but also the subtext of what you could learn from them, right? So I'm actually quite excited about this year's conclave because we got N. Chandrasekharan talking as a keynote. And the same way like Uday Kotak spoke a lot about his life, I'm assuming that Chandrasekharan will be very, very honest about what's been happening with the Tata Group. Imagine the change. I mean, it's a 150-year-old group, but the whole issue about the chair, like with Cyrus Mistry, that change happening, the idea about, okay, how is the international investments going? TCS still being the largest revenue generator, how does that affect the other Tata Group? So I'm assuming that based on the experience of the previous Ascent Conclave, we're going to hear stuff from Chandrasekharan that you would not heard anywhere else, which you won't get on media and you definitely won't get on YouTube. So I think that is, I think that's where it's worth talking about. Yeah,
that's amazing, Akhil. I'm actually, of course, Chandrasekhar, of course, but I'm also looking at, Vinita Singh from Sugar Cosmetics. I mean, she walked into a space and she created sugar, literally, competing with all the multinational brands, and she's such a big brand today. And that's one session that I'm looking for. What about you, Aleem?
I'm looking forward to Baman Irani, not because I'm just starstruck, but also because obviously he's a great speaker, but I'm also his same school as him. So I like to see my school guys once in a while. Yeah. I'm also looking forward to Meena Ganesh from Portia, primarily because same industry and stuff like that. Yeah. So
yeah, so that's amazing. Yeah, so I mean, if anybody who's looking forward to be in the Ascent Foundation, you should go to that website and register right now for the conclave. It's on the 24th of November.
And while seeing them in YouTube is a thing, but when seeing them in person and just experiencing that aura while they speak, it's something else altogether. Yeah.
And also the funny thing is, and you probably know this, is that a lot of the people who are Ascent members themselves are quite successful. I mean, you guys as well. I mean, the thing is that a lot of people are running multi-crore companies, 100 crore, 1,000 crore companies. And you see them they're very down to earth, very personable. You can get a lot of learnings from, beyond the trust group that you see, but a lot of us really love our trust groups, right? But there are a lot of people out there who are fantastic that we've never really connected with. And again, I've seen a lot of learning from people in the Ascent for conclave, which you don't get in most other industry networks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we get to meet Dr.
So
Akhil
Aleem,
Shahani.
just we just have enough time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just have enough time to actually
Yes.
the last 5 minutes. But Akhil, now let's break a little away from this entrepreneurs. That
Okay,
the
serious stuff,
entrepreneurial
right?
journey is where they consider, yeah, too much of serious stuff. Tell us about
All
your
right.
personal hobbies, everything other than work, your family. Just tell us about how do you actually pull off a work-life balance, yeah, and your personal interests and hobbies.
Okay. Well, I'm a Libran, so unfortunately, balance of being unbalanced is part of my DNA. But that said, luckily I've got three beautiful girls at home, my wife and two daughters. My elder one is working with me, and surprisingly, she's still working with me. She's doing very well in the organization. Simran, who's also now getting married at the end of the month, by the way. So that's going to be
Congratulations.
fun. Thank you.
Right.
And the younger one is a MA in clinical psychology. She's working with kids with learning disabilities in one of the top schools in Bombay. So so they actually are well set, and of course, my wife has always been a great support and helped sort of uh, get the family to where it is. So I mean, so we do have a lot of fun. See, the thing is, this is funny, right? And I'm going to sound a little odd. A lot of cases, like when you are coming back from the office, you're sitting home, you don't want to talk to anyone because there's too much pressure on the family. We actually have fun together. So very often we actually do look forward to hanging out together on the weekends. It's not the parents are doing something, husband's doing this, wife's doing something, and kids are doing something else. We actually have a good time because I think we laugh a lot and we have a really good equation going on. Yeah? Because like make fun of each other, that's stuff that we have a very open family that way. In fact, one of my daughters had to give her lifeline in one of the forums in another group. And she said, look, other people have so much drama in their lives. The problem is in my life, I have no drama. What do I talk about here? So I sort of done the best compliment for me as a parent. So, but anyway, that's one thing. But otherwise, my interests are like being a Sindhi. Of course, I drink. I drink single malt. So I'm part of a single malt club. So we tend to just use that excuse to pretend we're snobbish and we know our stuff. But we get very odd malts from different parts of the world. And by the way, I tell you that most Japanese malts is overpriced. First bit of information that you should look at. There are interesting malts in Taiwan, Sweden, stuff that you never thought of, yeah, which is really good, yeah. And globally well, not just in the Indian ones, some great stuff. So that's it. I'm also a voracious reader. I'm championing the book club in Ascent, so I read a lot of non-fiction. So I'm like in a month, I'm probably reading around 4 or 5 books simultaneously, and along with the Ascent
Wow.
book club, I also have my other book club where we have a lot of very intelligent, judgmental people. So you have to make sure that you read your stuff and come prepared. But yeah, so I think I read, I drink. I think it's like what Game of Thrones, right? Tyrion Lannister. I drink and I know things. Yeah, so that's pretty much me. But along with that, I do travel a lot. I try to exotic food and just a normal fun life.
Amazing. Too good. So we're just about 2 minutes away from our 30-minute show. So Akhil, it's
Okay.
been fabulous. You're like live wire, man. You just set the whole
Thank you.
screen up like with full of energy. And I'm sure everyone who has been listening to us has been actually the recipient of that energy
Thank
that
you.
you sent across. So it's been fun talking to you. Fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for actually being
Yeah,
here.
the secret is a
And
lot of
Akhil,
coffee in the morning, a lot of whiskey in the night. Yeah.
and Akhil, one thing, जब हमारे बच्चे का when हम लोग के बच्चे का एडमिशन का टाइम आएगा तो प्लीज संभाल लेना, okay?
I believe that the new CEO joining my company, so he might be able to help us.
Thanks, Akhil. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
Thanks a
Great
lot.
meeting you guys. Thanks a lot. Yeah. I had a great time. Thanks, man.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. That's great, Ali. I mean, I think it was fantastic, full live wire. So fabulous session. And to all our viewers who's been watching us, there are 3 things that you can do. It goes standard after every show of ours. If you're an entrepreneur, just happy doing what you are doing, just subscribe to our channels, connect with us on social media, and give us feedback what you would like to hear. And every Friday, we'll come up with a new entrepreneurial journey at 11 a.m. And that'll keep you kicked up for the next 1 week. And do write to us. The second thing, if you want to meet all the Ascent members and the Ascent entrepreneurs, there are 700 of us. The Ascent Conclave is there. You're going to have a great lineup of speakers. You can go online to ascentfoundation.in and register for the event. It's on the 24th of November. If you want to be an Ascent member, you can go onto this website, apply for the membership. It's not like pay a fee and buy the membership. It just doesn't work like that. Got to be patient around it. And the Ascent team will get in touch with you and evaluate whether you're a growth ready entrepreneur and you can fit into the cohort. But it's a fabulous experience. Aleem and me have been the Ascent members for a very long time, and we are looking forward to being part of the conclave. What do you say, Aleem?
Absolutely. Looking forward. We're counting days and can't wait for it. It's one of the biggest events that we see in the year, and there's so much of joy in meeting everyone, sharing the experiences and things like that. So we're 1 minute over time, but if you enjoyed the
That's
show,
right.
please like and comment and share the video with your network, and we'll be happy to hear from you.
Great. Awesome, guys. See you today and see you with the third episode. And we'll see you next Friday at 11 a.m. with a new
With
story.
another
Thank you very
interesting
much.
one.
Have a wonderful weekend. Yeah. Bye bye. See you.
Okay.
Bye
See you. Bye.
bye. Bye.